to Aware. We are dedicated to communicating information that inspires your positive growth and change. Are you interested in a peaceful planet? Are you interested in optimal health? Are you living with purpose? Are you enjoying your life? We realize each person can make a difference, and our mission is to empower your awareness. The choices that you make in every moment shape your life, and we encourage you to realize that you have your own answers and to always listen to your own truth. We invite you to stay aware.
Hello, I am Lisa Garr, host of the Aware Show Health and Mindset series. And I talk with experts on this show that help us really take a look at what life looks like in our new normal. And also to, at the same time, adapt to change. And if we can, embrace it, because it's going to continue to happen. So these types of solution-oriented conversations are exactly why we created this show. So we can also learn in like-minded communities. There are studies that show that when you learn in a like-minded community, the learnings tend to be longer lasting. So that's what we're doing here together. We're choosing this time on where we want to put our thoughts specifically and go into a place of possibility. This is meant to help us all feel good for a moment, which is exactly what we're talking about today. There's information streams that come at us all day long, every day, about the ongoing statistics and what's happening with our economy and the numbers. What we really need is a way to manage our emotions and feelings as this information overflow is coming. And how to not allow our feelings to manage us, but us to actually have some sense of management over our feelings. These feelings could be loneliness, they could be isolation, grief and sadness, uncertainty and stress. And so our need for emotional literacy right now is greater than it ever has been before. And luckily, joining me to address managing these feelings is neuropsychologist and neuroscientist Dr. Ilene Naomi Rusk, who founded the Brain and Behavior Clinic in Boulder, Colorado, to help us understand emotional literacy. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
I'm so happy to be here with you. It's such an incredible time of such a difficult time for so many people.
Yes, it is. So let's start off by talking about what is emotional literacy?
Do we have a good wingspan of knowing ourselves, knowing what we feel? And in any given moment, do we have the opportunity to self-reflect, have self-awareness, and have agency over our feelings? It means, can we regulate our feelings? Do we recognize them when they're coming up? Whether it's any of the things you just talked about, anger, fear, grief, sadness. And it's a particularly really relevant question right now because many people are needing to gain this emotional literacy and emotional intelligence in order to help us get through these very strong emotional seas, Lisa.
I noticed that the emotions are highs and then lows and then highs and then lows. And
that's right.
I don't quite know how to regulate something like that. What have you experienced in your clinic?
Well, we're seeing everybody by telemedicine now, secure telemedicine. So it's, HIPAA compliant, and many people are doing that now. It's interesting. I just wrote a paper on this actually, because I think some people are having highs and lows, and some people are staying high, and some people are staying low. When I say high, I mean like a high agitation, a high anxiety, kind of a trembling of anticipatory, oh my God, what's going to happen? And some are very, very kind of deep in a trough of sadness, deep in a trough of helplessness. And sometimes, yes, there's this cycling, but I think now we're hitting a point where we've experienced this quarantining and physical separateness and isolation for some people and loneliness for some people for quite some time now. I think we're actually hitting a different phase right now, and additional helplessness, additional feelings of being out of control.
Yes, I agree. In the beginning, it was very much of we're in this together, help your neighbor. Right. And now it's starting to become dissonance and stress and fear. And it's moving into a place away from that altruistic feeling as we move along in this process. And I'm wondering how we can impact those feelings so that they don't take over us, that we can get a hold of them.
I think you spoke to that a little bit when you introduced the show. And when you introduced me, you were talking about building like-minded community. And how do we do that? We really have to start I was going to say we have to start at home, but really we have to start inside. We have to start with validating our own feelings. It's kind of concentric circles, right? We have to start validating our own feelings, acknowledging, going back to emotional intelligence or emotional literacy. What is it that I'm feeling right now? And can I accept myself in this place of terror or grief or anger even? So it starts with there, and then concentric circles outward, building community, right? So how do I stay in contact with my 18-year-old son who's now finishing high school at home? That's a true story. I really have to try to negotiate that. How do you stay home? So we're each, if we're lucky enough to be quarantined with a family member or a partner, or even an animal like a sweet dog or cat or fish, we have to create some kind of intimacy with them first, and then extend to, how's my neighbor who's really old and living alone? And that way, building the concentric circle of community. Ultimately, the circle keeps going out, right? So now I'm aware. I have a very close friend who I've known for a long time. She lives in a trailer park, and there are many people in that park who are really out of work, and they're paycheck to paycheck people. How can I extend myself to my larger community, give to charity, and find out where is the need right now? It gives you agency, so it makes you feel like you're doing something. It also takes away from just the internal feelings of sadness or grief or helplessness. And helplessness is really what causes so many of our problems. Hopelessness and helplessness. So how can I mobilize is my question always to myself and to my patients. How can you mobilize the energy, stop it from being a stuck, either high nervous or depressed, and maybe even be in service to someone else in a small way, to feel agency, to feel purpose, which is really what we're all wanting so much now, right?
You know, that whole point about helplessness makes a great point. It does feel that there's moments that we go into that deep despair and helplessness, hopelessness because of the lack of information that's available. And I understand that. And that's why we're looking towards these tools. So that could really, we are going to have to go right into our head about it. So what types of things can we do for our brain health that our conscious mind can recall when we're in these times of hopelessness, helplessness, sadness, and so much newness?
So much newness. That is so true. Your question ties into creating rhythm and routine in our day, because rhythm and routine create predictability. And everyone who's watching this, you guys know there's very little that's predictable now.
Yes.
So that is my first big tip. How can you create rhythm in your day? And it could mean something as simple as I wake up at the same time every day, which ties in very beautifully to brain health. We really want to be regulating sleep and talking and dealing and acting upon sleep hygiene, good sleep habits. Many of us have our circadian rhythms, those daily, nightly rhythms that are tied to all kinds of hormones, out of whack. If we start going to bed at 2 a.m. and we start, waking up at 11 a.m, that changes a lot of our physiology. So just creating that rhythm is a good brain health tip. It's also a good emotional health tip. It also creates a sense of predictability, rhythm, and routine.
That is a great point. Yes. I was speaking specifically with my mom, who is alone at home and her house, and father passed about a year ago. So she's dealing with both of those demons. And she's been going to
Yes.
bed at 5 in the morning, waking up at 6 in the evening. And it's
Yes.
challenging because I'm not there to nudge her, but I think it's just unresolved grief and sheer depression. What happens when someone is dealing with all of those things at once? Not only a post or pandemic sensitive world, but lots of other emotions as well.
Sure. Really well put. I'm so sorry about your mom, first of all. And it's very disorienting to have such a big colliding of her own personal grief, which I think many, many of our viewers now are experiencing as well. There's a mixing. There's a fear of something mixed with the fear of the pandemic. There's a grief like your mom's experience mixed with this overlay of global grief, right? Fear of dying, all these things come in. So I really encourage you when you speak to her, and similar for, my parents in Canada also started edging into we're going to sleep at 2 a.m. And I'm encouraging all my patients to keep a good rhythm. That means alarm clocks. It's a time when everything gets blurred, right? When we're needing to create some level of regularity, rhythm, and routine, the 3 R's. So I think to stay on top of that is important for brain health. It's important for emotional health. Yes, very important. Yeah.
Now, are you working from your office and you're doing the telemedicine from your office? You're working from home. Okay. So is it difficult for you to maintain a rhythm? A lot of people have expressed this to me, that working from home is so disruptive compared to going into the office, which was something that they used to complain about, but now really wish they had back. And I've always worked from home. So I have, I understand that the symptom of working from home is that you never walk away. You're constantly able to be at your desks. You wind up working more. And so how do you suggest someone creating regularity if they're used to going into an office?
Well, I think that speaks to another good brain health, emotional health tip, which is move your body often and at regular times in the day if you can. I know I have a new rhythm and I do have regularity in my day. My schedule is the same as it was before COVID-19 took over. And I don't want COVID-19 to take over my life. I have a very similar schedule. So my sleep cycle has changed a little bit, using myself as an example. And I know many people experience that, which is why I'm sharing it. But I think other than that, there has to be a kind of regularity. And there has been in my schedule in the day. It's kind of funny, though, because you have to tell family members you can't come in, you can't open the door. No, you can't get a drink now. I do not have a big house, so it makes a difference. It's not easy to hide. And I think there are probably many people who don't have big homes or are navigating schedules. Yeah.
It's brought up a lot of different things. The student is in the kitchen, but then you can't go in there during lunchtime because they're on the call. And
exactly.
It is interesting, but it's also new and everybody's getting used to that. And we just made that decision last night as a family is, okay, you stick to this room. I'll stick to this room. Don't change.
That's right. So creating that kind of structure, though, is actually helpful for everybody, I think.
Okay.
That makes a lot. Yeah.
So
things stop blending with other things.
To help us understand a little bit more, you've got this great visual of this COVID-19 iceberg. And if you could explain this to us, that would help a lot.
It feels as though COVID cases, the death, the grief, the trauma has been huge. But we're meeting today with a whole other pandemic, for want of a better word. I think that the level of distress, emotional, psychic, and physical distress, maybe comorbid or related to COVID, is so huge. And I think it's bigger than just how many people COVID illness itself has infected and affected. So I made this image to show that there's many, many consequences of COVID, and that it's not just the visible tip of the iceberg, that what's indeed underneath the iceberg are all of the psychological, emotional, physical isolation, and the consequences of those are, it's a terrible term, but I learned the term intimate violence. There's a lot of domestic abuse now. People are in fear and they're cooped up together. I think we need to just name that.
Yes. And I have heard the same thing, that domestic violence cases are up, molestation is up, and that just breaks my heart because
that's right.
People don't have anywhere to go. And it's
that's right.
Scary. It is very scary. And I'm
that's
really
right.
glad you brought that up. I was offering some helplines the other day. One is called the hotline.org, just to have a way to covertly alert someone that something's going on without having to speak on the phone or on a website. There are resources out there. Do you have any suggestions, Dr. Rusk?
I'd love to get that to people. I'm going to get that to you after the show. I do. Mental health, mental helplines, suicide helplines are being used and overused right now, domestic abuse. So I'd like to provide people with some helpline numbers, and each state has its own number, but I think there are probably some national phone numbers we can get to people too, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
I can supply you with some after the show for sure. And
that would be
the
great.
other thing
we'll put
we
it
can
up
do.
as a graphic.
Yeah, we should. The other thing we could do is we could provide people with the idea of checking on your neighbor. You know, the idea of getting a little more close to your neighbor and finding out what's going on. And this is a time where intimacy is kind of altered in terms of our closeness to other people. We're feeling a kinship. We are feeling a shared common humanity with people like I don't think ever before. And so I feel, why don't we capitalize on that and get into people's lives in a gentle, respectful, and delicate way, but in a caring way. I've done that with a few of my neighbors, and I feel it's really made a difference. You know, just ask questions. I'd love to make you some soup. You could heat it up. It will be COVID-free. I love cooking. Can I offer you some soup? And start there. So that's another way we can create kind of inroads to connecting and maybe, hopefully, taking care of families who do feel cooped up, who have no resources, and who are really terrified and struggling. You know, how can we help them?
I think for the first time, we're getting an opportunity to take care of each other, and not just that, to really get to know our neighbors and to go out of our way to help and not to accept or necessarily need anything in return. It is a beautiful balance that's happening. I think the more we learn about balancing and compassion, it makes it a little bit easier. It makes it a little bit easier to experiencing these feelings. It really does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're going back to that. It really starts at home. So it starts in me and in you and our effort at self-regulating, our effort to know our feelings, recognize when they come up, validate them, say they're okay. They'll pass just like a wave in the ocean, and then spend some time with self-care, right? Yeah, perfect.
Yes. And there's a couple of different ways you can go with that in terms of routine is super important. Sleep is very important. Reaching out and helping people in a state of compassion, and to keep it going, even as our restrictions get lifted, hopefully, that you can continue to share with your neighbors and to help your neighbors, because those who are compromised still probably shouldn't be running to restaurants and out in a post-pandemic state. So it would be really great to continue that kind of help and that kind of cooking, which is you have a process we could go through as well that you can take people through to just enjoy a moment of calm. And I really want you to notice as you're watching this, how you felt at the beginning of the show and how you feel at the end of it. Just to go through a guided process with Dr. Rusk and give you an opportunity to just notice the difference. Do you mind taking us through that?
Be My pleasure. Thanks so much, Lisa. We didn't talk much about meditation, but there's so many different ways to meditate. And I want to just note that often when people are anxious, it's very hard to sit quietly with your own thoughts in your own mind. So there are many different ways you can still yourself and find a place of calm. And right now, I'm going to guide you through a very gentle and brief practice just to give you a sense. So if you're comfortable, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, I'm going to ask you to just lower your eyes so that your gaze is soft. And try to settle, as I am, into the chair that I'm in. You may be on a couch or in a bed. Wherever you are, I'm inviting you to settle in and fully arrive. When we slow down this much, we start to notice a little ache, a little pain, a little nudge or a discomfort. So welcome that. That's welcome here. All of you are welcome here. And now begin just to breathe in slowly, allowing the breath in your nose, if you can breathe through your nose, to come in ever so gently through your nose. And allow the exhale to be full and long. And notice that there's warm, gentle air that pours out ever so gently from your nose or from your mouth. It's your choice. And let your exhale be longer than your inhale. These type of longer exhalations tell our brain and our nervous system that everything's okay. That just for this moment, in this time, with me and with each other in this collective community, we're okay. We're okay together. So allow the exhale to be long. And you can't do it wrong. That's the beauty. Just be with yourself. So let's breathe in and out together about 3 times. We're all connected here. And I'd like you now to imagine that you are in a beautiful forest. It could be a forest that you grew up in, that you're familiar with from your childhood. It could just be a small forest that's coming to you right now. Notice where you're standing, what the earth feels like beneath your feet. And now find a tree. Find a tree that's beautiful, that's big, that feels comforting. And imagine now yourself as the tree, yourself as a beautiful tree. That beautiful tree with deep roots, finding little rivulets of water underground, looking for small jewels and little bits of space to grow extra roots. Notice the trunk of your tree, solid. Maybe your torso is the trunk of the tree. And now notice your branches. Big, beautiful green leaves moving with the wind. And now let's connect that with the breathing. Breathing in through your top of your head, or the branches or the leaves. Breathing in and breathing out through your feet, through your trunk, through the roots. Breathing out any stress or discomfort that you no longer need, that you can breathe out into the earth with through your roots. Breathing in through the top of your head, the beautiful canopy of leaves, and breathing out all the way down your trunk, through your legs, feeling the breath leave through your legs and your feet into the roots, offering to the earth, who is so generous, offering back to the earth any stress, any distress, any feelings you no longer want to carry. Do that a few times. We'll do it together. And what you're noticing might be different than what I'm saying, and that's just perfect. Go with what works for you. And this practice can really help you find your solid center again. A part of you that you can always connect with, and that's really your breath, right? That's always your breath. That's the gift. Next time you see a tree, I was just going to say you can connect with that tree and connect with your solid core as well. Center yourself again, get grounded in the earth. That's the best thing to do. And so, thank you.
Love the tree. I love that image. Yes, because they're everywhere. Yes.
That's right.
Big oak trees, and they have their roots are so strong, that are so grounded, and they really do help us tether the earth.
I know.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. You have been just a joy to have here with me. I appreciate your time and your energy and what you do to help people stay grounded, stay centered, stay emotionally intelligent, and stay safe.
Yeah.
Until next time, I invite you to stay aware.